सुव्यवस्थितं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यसतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining. So, we have been discussing chapter 25, and today we continue from text 52 onwards. So, just a very quick recap. As of now, we have seen the story of Puranjana and Puranjini being described to Prachina Bharisat by Narada Muni, and the reason of describing that he wanted to elevate Prachina Bharisat because he was engaged in karma kanda or fruit activities. And then we saw how Narada Muni narrates the story of Puranjana, who is basically the jiva, and he's going through his whole world here and there, was not finding the place where he could fulfill his desire. Then eventually he entered the Bharatavarsha and then entered a city with 9 gates. And then he met a beautiful lady called Puranjini. That is his intelligence without proper knowledge. And then have some conversation with this beautiful lady, and both got attracted to each other. And eventually we reached the point where we started discussing about what these 9 gates are. And yesterday we discussed the 7 gates of the city, basically 7 gates of the body itself, where we saw the 2 eyes, like left eye, right eye, and 5 of them are facing to the east, like 2 eyes, 2 nostrils and mouth. So we covered the left eye and right eye. Left eye is less powerful, right eye is more powerful, and it could see any form, any objects, and it could see because it has a friend called as Duyaman or sun. Because of sunlight, we could see things. Yeah. And then we saw about the 2 eyes. The 2 eyes names were Nalini and Nalini. Yeah. Sorry, not eyes. Sorry, nostrils. And the nostrils, they inhale, exhale, and smell. Right. So the smelling capability of nostrils are because they are associated with a friend called as air or adhuta. Because of air we could smell it. And then we saw about the 5th one, this mouth, which is the mukhya or chief among this gate, and he has 2 things to do, right? Eating and speaking, and that he does through friend called as Rasagya. Rasagya is the tongue and Vipana is the voice. Yeah. So, and then we saw about right ear. Right ear is more for about hearing about karma kanda, which could elevate to Pitraloka. And left ear is for Jnana kanda, which elevate to the higher planetary system towards Sargva, or even if properly used, it can elevate to the Vaikuntha Loka as well, as we see right away here, the last line of this purport. Yeah. So let us continue from here today. Text 52. Ashuri nama paschadvas तया याति पुरञ्जन ग्रामकं नाम विषयं दुर्मदेन समन्विता. Yes, Umla Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
On the western side was a gate named Asuri. Though that gate king Puranjana used to go to the city of Gramaka accompanied by his friend Durmada.
Yeah. So this is the two gates which are in the lower part of the body. Yeah. So let us say it what it says. The gate on the western side of the city was known as Ashuri because it was especially meant for Asuras. The word Asura refers to those who are interested in sense gratification, specifically the sex life, to which they are overly attracted. Thus, Puranjana, the living entity, enjoys himself to his greatest satisfaction by the means of genitals. Consequently, he used to go to the place known as Gramaka. Yeah, Gramaka, and material sense gratification is called Gramya, and the place where sex life is indulged into a great extent is called Gramaka. When going to Gramaka, Puranjana used to be accompanied by his friend Durmada. Who's Durmada? Durmada is, let's see, yeah. The word Visaya refers to the four bodily necessities of life: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. I think these four things we discussed many times, but also yesterday we recap again on these four things. And the word Durmadena may be analyzed in this way. Dur means dusta or sinful, and mada means madness. So Durmada is basically uh, sinful madness or madness. Every living entity who is in contact with the material nature is called mother or mad. It is said, পিশাচি পাইলে যন মতি ছিন্ন হয় মায়াগ্রস্ত জীবের হয় সে ভাবা উদয়. It's from Prema Vivarta. When a person is haunted, he becomes practically insane. When one is in an insane condition, he speaks all kinds of nonsense. Thus, to become engaged in sense gratification, one has to accept a friend who is durmada or madness, or badly affected by material disease. Yeah, the nice choice of words by Prabhupada. The words Ashuri, Nama Paschadwa are significant in the another sense. The sunrise is the first visible from the eastern side, the Bay of Bengal, and gradually it progressed towards west. It is practically experienced that people in the west are more addicted to sense gratification. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has certified Paschimera Lokashava Mudha Anachar. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila 1089. The more one goes to the western side, the more he will find people disinterested in spiritual life. He will find them behaving against the Vedic standards. Because of this, people living in the West are more addicted to sense gratification. In this Bhagavatam, it is confirmed Ashuri Nama Paschadva. In other words, the population on the western side is interested in an Ashuric civilization that is a materialistic way of life. And Lord Chaitanya consequently wanted this Krishna consciousness movement to be preached on the western side of the world so that people addicted to sense gratification might be benefited by his teachings. And that's why the first instruction to Srila Prabhupada was that when we have money, print books and preach on the West. Because you know good English, you should go and preach on the West. That was his instruction. Yeah. So, and Prabhupada has actually that's how we see Krishna consciousness in this West. An interesting point is, I mean, it's actually when we're discussing the nectar devotion, the quality, the all auspiciousness, isn't it? The all auspiciousness is that's how Krishna consciousness provides auspiciousness to everyone, and everyone can take part in Krishna consciousness. It doesn't matter about which part we belong to, which country we belong to, which religion we follow, what is our condition, poor, rich, or whatever it is. Regardless of any conditions, Krishna consciousness can be followed. That's why Prabhupada came around to spread the message of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So this is how this Western gates, Ashuri or genitally being described. So in short, what it says, the western side gate named Asuri. Through that gate, King Puranjana used to go to city of Gramaka. And Gramaka, what Prabhupada explains, where people or where sex life is more available. And his friend is Durmada. Durmada is madness. Like, with madness as a friend. So it's again, isn't it, association, what we say. So as what association we have, that's how we mold our activities. Okay. Let's just see the next verse, text 53. Nritte naam paschadvash taya yati puranjana vaishamsa nama vishayam lubhatkena samvita. इसकी सूरी प्रभु.
Hare Krishna. Another gate on the western side was known as Nirriti. Puranjana used to go through this gate to the place known as Vaishasha, accompanied by his friend Lubdhaka. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. This is a reference to the rectum. The rectum is supposed to be situated on the western side of the eyes, nose, and ears. And this gate is specially meant for death. When an ordinary living entity abandons his present body, he passes through the rectum. It is therefore painful. When one is called by nature to evacuate, one also experiences pain. The friend of the living entity who accompanies him through this gate is named Lubdhaka, which means greed. Due to our greed, we eat unnecessarily, and such gluttony causes pain at the time of evacuation. The conclusion is that the living entity feels well if he evacuates properly, and this gate is known as Nritti, or the painful gate. So that's how whole 7 gates are being described. So the 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the ears, and genitals and rectum. Yeah. So after describing this 9 gates, let us see how Narad Muni narrates this pastime. Text 54. Andhava amisham pauranam nirvag pesha krutav ubhau akshanvatam adipatesh tabhyam yati karoti cha. Is Thel Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare.
Of the many inhabitants of, sorry Prabhuji, it's noisy.
No problem. Advait Krishna Prabhu, are you reading today?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hari Hari.
Of the many inhabitants of this city, there are 2 persons named Nirvak and Peshaskrit. Although King Puranjana was the ruler of citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go here and there and perform various activities.
So two more personality enters here, Nirvak and Peshakrit. Let's see who they are. So this is a reference to the arms and legs of the living entity. The two legs do not speak, and hence they are blind. If a person simply trusts his legs to take him walking, he is likely to fall into a hole or bump into something. Thus, led by the blind legs, one's life may be placed in jeopardy. Wow. Yeah. Of the senses that are working, the hands and legs are very important, but they have no eyes to see. This means that in the hands and the legs, there are no holes. In the head, there are many holes: two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, and one mouth. But lower down in the arms and legs, there are no holes. Consequently, the arms and legs have been described as andha or blind. Although the living entity has many holes in his body, he nonetheless has to work with his hands and arms. Although the living entity is the master of many other senses, when he has to go somewhere, do something, or touch something, he has to use his blind legs and hands. Yeah, so basically, Puranjana used to go here and there using his legs and do many activities using his hands or arms. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, if you see the prayer by Ambrish Maharaj, he says, the legs should be utilized to go to Dhama, to temples, and hands should be utilized to uh, cleaning the temples, right? Okay, text 55. Sahyanta Puragatau, Sahyanta, sorry, Sayahantara Puragato, Visuchina Samanvita, Moham Prasadam Harsham Harsham Va Yati Yaja Yati Jayatma Jodhvavam. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Sometimes he used to go to his private home with one of his chief servants, the mind, who was named Vishuchana. Vishuchana. At that time, illusion, satisfaction, and happiness used to be produced from his wife and children. Hare Krishna.
So another friends, yeah, who those are? So he used to go to private home with his with one of his chief friends, servant is mine. Let's see who they are. So according to Vedic conclusion, one's self is situated within the heart, and as stated in the Vedic language, Hridaya Ayam Atma Pratishtata. The self is situated within the heart. And in the material condition, sorry, however, the spirit soul is covered by the material qualities, namely goodness, passion, and darkness. And within the heart, these three qualities react. For instance, when one is in goodness, he feels happiness. When one is in passion, he feels satisfaction through material enjoyment, and one is in darkness, he feels bewildered or bewilderment. All these activities are of the mind and they function on the platform of thinking, feeling, and willing. Yeah. So sometimes, as been described, just his body is composed of so many chemicals and this and that, right? But the main ingredient of this body is actually thinking, feeling, and willing. Everything goes around these three things, right? we have the feeling, we have the desire, we have the thinking capability. Without this body is kind of nothing. So when the living entity is encircled by wife, children, home, he acts on his mental plane. Sometimes he is very happy, sometimes he is very much satisfied, sometimes he is not satisfied, and sometimes he is bewildered. Bewilderment is called moha or illusion. Illusion by society, friendship, and love. The living entity thinks that his so called society, friendship, and love, nationality, community, etc., will give him protection. He does not know that after death he will be thrown into the hands of a very strong material nature that will force him to accept a certain type of body according to his present work. I think it's a very important point actually. The life which we have got right now is actually because of our previous life activities. And Prabhupada says that the way we live this life, it's actually we are preparing our next life. If we want to get something success very well, we should prepare our this life, or in a way that we get next life in a better condition. And the best condition out of that is to be in Krishna consciousness and get free from the cycle of birth and death. Yeah, so the investment what we do in this body, in this life, through this body, is basically we are preparing for our next life. Yeah, so this body may not be even be a human being. So next body which we, or anyone who gets, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, anyone who dies, he takes birth again. So the body may not be even a human being. We don't know. Then what is next body awaiting for? Thus the living entity's feeling of security in this life, in the midst of society, wife, friendship, is nothing but an illusion. All living entities encased in various metal bodies are illusioned by the present activities of metal enjoyment. They forget their real business, which is to go home back to Godhead. Yeah. Everyone who is not in Krishna consciousness must be considered to be illusion. Yeah. One's so-called feeling of happiness and satisfaction resulting from material things are also illusions. Factually, neither society, friendship, love, nor anything else can save one from the onslaught of the external energy which is symbolized by birth, death, old age, disease. This is basically, very is a bitter truth that a person has to go through this by his own. No one else can actually help. It's been described. I'm not recalling the whole verses, but the Shastra says that what happens at death. It says that it gives the example of a person dies. He says that the wife of the person, she even cannot come out with the body from the house. So basically, when the dead body goes out from the house, the wife of the person, she remains at the house itself, right? And basically it starts from the money. So in the previous days, the people, they used to keep money in their in their houses by digging holes. So he said that the money is lying there as it is. It cannot move at all. So that's dig inside the earth. And the property in the earlier days, the property used to be like the animals, the cows and buffaloes. They used to have these things. So he says they remain in the shed itself, and the wife remains on the doorsteps, and his relatives, they go till the cremation ground, not beyond that. And the body itself, this body which we take care of so beautifully, provide everything to satisfy this body, everything we do to provide the necessities what this body desires to, and that body is given to the fire. And depending upon different kinds of religions who they follow, it goes, but eventually it goes back into the nature. Yeah, nothing that. And the jiva takes another birth, and we don't know which birth or which living entity it becomes. So eventually, that whomsoever we have with, is like society, friendship, or whomsoever it is, no one is going to come with us. So this birth, death, old age, disease, everyone has to face by his own. I was just reading seventh canto, and in the seventh canto, the way Hiranyakashipu describes to his relatives, I mean the wife of Hirnaksha, and then his mother Diti, and his relatives, that don't lament for the for Hirnaksha, and he glorifies the death of Hirnaksha. He talks about very philosophical points, right? But because he was a demon, his demonic nature, he arranged another meeting with his ministers, and said that go on and destroy everything related to Vishnu, destroy the people, destroy the saint, destroy the sages who do yagyas, who do study of scriptures, destroy all scriptures, destroy all of those, destroy cows, destroy brahmanas, right? In one hand, right on the philosophy, but at the second hand, he's just saying, okay, just destroy everything which is related to the Vishnu, right? So this is demonic nature. So, and then to get even one living entity out of illusory condition is very difficult. Yeah, it's really very difficult to convince in this world to take the path of Krishna consciousness, right? And therefore, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Devi Haisha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durutyaya Mama Eva Ye Prabhadante Mayam Etam Tarantite. The divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of mental nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Therefore, unless one surrenders completely at the lotus feet of Krishna, he cannot get out of the entanglement of the three modes of material nature. Yeah. So Prabhupada clearly says here, quoting the seventh verse, that how can someone get away from this material world? That without surrendering to the Lord completely, the lotus feet of the Lord, it's impossible to get out of the entanglement from three modes. Krishna says, Daivi Haishamya, my Maya is Daiva, is divine, the divine energy of mine. And to cross it, someone has to take my shelter. It's described that if someone wants to cross the metal oceans, Bhava Sagara, it's called a Sagara, the ocean of this metal existence, is not possible to cross by swimming, right? But if anyone takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, follow the parampara, follow the process, takes the chanting holy name of the Lord, what happens? This whole Bhavasagara shrinks to the footprint of a calf. It means what? The analogy is that anyone can cross easily. I mean, just just imagine if you have a water as in a size of a hoof print of a calf, without even knowledge we could cross it, isn't it? No need to endeavor anything. So that's why by taking shelter of the Lord, that Bhavasagar shrinks so easily that without our consciousness, without our knowledge, we cross it and we go to back to Godhead. But the way is to Mam Eva Prapadante. So to take shelter of Krishna. And how to take shelter of Krishna, our Shastra says again and again, right? In this Kali Yuga, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. So like earlier we were discussing in Nectar Devotion as well, like the four things we have to be faith in, the process, that chanting of holy name, it works, right? The parampara, right? The scriptures and the sadhus. So if we have faith in all of these four, then the process becomes quite easier for us. Yeah. Okay. I think we have few more verses. Let's see. Text 56. Evam karmasu sansakta कामात्मा वंचित बुद्धः महिषी यद्यधीते तत्तत् एवानुवर्तत. Govinda Balai Mataji, can you please read this paragraph, translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, she's my wife, but I don't know if she's able to read.
Oh,
I just
okay.
invited her to come in.
That's okay, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh.
Hare Krishna. Do you
Hare
want to read the text?
Yes, Mataji. Translation.
All right. Thank you. Translation. Being thus entangled in different types of mental conjunctions and engaged in productive activities, King Puranjana came completely under the control of material intelligence and was thus cheated. Indeed, he used to fulfill all the desires of his wife, the queen.
Yeah. So
Is all?
this,
Okay.
yeah. So this king Puranjana now becomes completely under the control of this metal intelligence. So remember who was the metal intelligence? That's Puranjini, right? Puranjani was the metal intelligence. Now this Puranjana, he was completely captivated by metal intelligence. It means the living entity or jiva, he get completely captivated by the intelligence of by the intelligence without proper knowledge. It means he thinks that enjoying the material nature or sense gratification, that's the topmost thing, and he engages in his activities, right? So that's how he used to fulfill all the desires of his wife, which is metal intelligence. Yeah. So always remember the point that this is a metaphorical story where Puranjana is the living entity Jiva, and Puranjini, which is metal intelligence, that is his wife. Yeah. Okay. When a living entity is in such bewilderment that he is under control of his wife or metal intelligence, he has to satisfy the intelligence of his so-called wife and act exactly according to her dictates. Yeah. I was trying to recall something. I forgot it where I read it. Anyway, so the various Shastra advise that for material convenience, one should keep his wife always satisfied by giving her ornament and by following her instructions. In this way, there will be no trouble in family life. Yeah. Therefore, for one's own benefit, one is advised to keep his wife satisfied. In this way, when one becomes the servant of his wife, he must act according to desires of his wife. Thus, one becomes more and more entangled. So, though Prabhupada is explaining this, but understand the point that here the context is the living entity, how he becomes subordinate of his wife, means the mental intelligence. Yeah. However, yeah, in Bengal, it is said that if one becomes an obedient servant of his wife, he loses all reputation. Okay. However, the difficulty is that unless one becomes a most obedient servant of his wife, family life becomes disturbed. So, in the Western countries, the disturbance gives rise to the divorce law, and in the Eastern countries like India, there is separation. Now, the disturbance is confirmed by the new introduction of divorce law in India. Within the heart, the mind is acting, thinking, feeling, and willing, and falling under the control of one's wife is the same as falling under the control of mental intelligence. Thus, one begets children by his wife and becomes entangled in so many activities under the control of mental concussion. Yeah. So, the Prabhupada explains in a real scenario, life scenario, but also just to remind that the context here is also how the jiva get entangled or captivated by his mental intelligence. Yeah. Okay, 50 to 61. Hopefully we can try to read it out. Let's see. क्वचित् पिबन्त्यं पिबति मदिरां मदविह्वला अश्नात्यां क्वचित् अश्नाति जक्षत्यं सह जक्षति क्वचित् गायति गायत्यां रुद्यत्यां रुदति क्वचित् क्वचित् धसन्त्यां हसति जल्पन्त्याम् अनुजल्पति क्वचित् धावति धावन्त्यां तिष्ठन्त्याम् अनुतिष्ठति अनुशेते शायनायाम् अन्वस्ते क्वचित् आशितम् क्वचित् शृणोति शृण्वन्त्यां पश्यन्ताम् अनुपश्यति क्वचित् जिघ्रति जिघ्रन्त्यां स्पर्शन्त्यां स्पर्शति क्वचित् क्वचित् च शोचितां या जायाम् अनुशोषति दीनावत् अनुहृष्यति हृष्यतां मोदिताम् अनुमोदते. Excuse Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Poetic words said.
When the queen drank liquor, King Puranjana also engaged in drinking. When the queen dined, he used to dine with her. And when she chewed, King Puranjana used to chew along with her. When the queen sang, he also sang. Similarly, when the queen cried, he also cried. And when the queen laughed, he also laughed. When the queen talked loosely, he also talked loosely. And when the queen walked, the king walked behind her. When the queen would stand still, the king would also stand still. And when the queen would lie down in bed, he would also follow and lie down with her. When the queen sat, he would also sit. And when the queen heard something, he would follow her to hear the same thing. When the queen saw something, the king would also look at it. And when the queen smelled something, the king would follow her to smell the same thing. When the queen touched something, the king would also touch it. And when the dear queen was lamenting, the poor king also had to follow her in lamentation. In the same way, when the queen felt enjoyment, he also enjoyed. And when the queen was satisfied, the king also felt satisfaction.
Yeah, it's a nice king and queen both marry each other. So the way, I mean, the point is the intelligence and the jiva, whatever intelligence desire, yeah, the jiva is also doing the same thing. Yeah. So first is the queen. The the mental intelligence, then king follows. So Jiva follows the mental intelligence, and that intelligence can be dovetailed towards Krishna consciousness too. So if the intelligence says engage in Krishna consciousness, the king or the Jiva will also follow to perform Krishna consciousness. So I mean the whole verse is very clear, stating that whatever the king basically is following every move of his wife. Yeah, that is Puranjana following Puranjini. Yeah, so the mind is the place where the self is satisfied, self is situated, and the mind is conducted by the intelligence. The living entity situated within the heart follows the intelligence, and the intelligence herein depicted as the queen and the soul under mental control follows the material intelligence just as the king follows his wife. The conclusion is that the material intelligence is the cause of bondage for living entity. And the point is that one has to take spiritual intelligence to come out of this entanglement. In the life of Maharaj Ambarisha, he finds that the great Maharaj first engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Save mana Krishna padaravindayor. Mana, you know, uh, is being described nicely that ena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshada. The mind should be engaged in Krishna or Krishna consciousness by hook or by crook. Whatever the way we would find. Yeah. And in this way, the intelligence become purified. So when mind is engaged in Krishna consciousness, the intelligence become purified. And the Maharaj Ambarisha also used his other senses in the service of the Lord. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity. He engaged his senses of smelling the flower. He engaged his legs by walking to the temple. His hands were engaged in cleaning the temple. His ears were engaged in hearing Krishna Katha. His tongue engaged in two ways, speaking about Krishna and tasting prasad offered to the deity. Materialistic person who are under the full control of material intelligence cannot perform all these activities. Thus, consequently and consciously or unconsciously, they become entangled by the dictation of metal intelligence. Yeah, so I would take a couple of more minutes, please. So this is the last verse of this chapter. We can try to cover it up. Text 62. Vipralabdo mahishyavam sarva prakritirvanchita nechan anukrityo agya klebyat krida mrugo yatha. Yes,
Hare Krishna.
yes, Mother.
In this way, King Purunjana was captivated by his nice wife and thus cheated. Indeed, he became cheated in his whole existence in the material world. Even against that poor, foolish king's desire, he remained under the control of his wife, just like a pet animal that dances according to the order of its master. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So the word Vipralabdha is very significant in this verse. V means specifically and Pralabdha means obtained. Just to satisfy his desire, the king got the queen and thus he became cheated by the metal existence. Although he was not willing to do so, he remained a pet animal under the control of metal intelligence, just as a pet monkey dances according to the desires of his master. The king danced according to the desires of the queen. In Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.2, it says, Mahat Sevan Dwaram Ahur Vimukte. If one associates with a saintly person, a devotee's one's path of liberation becomes clear. Yeah. But if one associates with a woman or with a person who is too much addicted to women, his path of bondage becomes completely clear. So he becomes bounded by this cycle of birth, age, and old age and disease. Yeah. Okay. So this is a long purport, but we'll continue it next Monday. So thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 4th canto, 25th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled "The Description of the Characteristics of King Puranjana." So just to remind, this story of King Puranjana and Puranjani continues till long, till 4 chapters. I think 25. Oh. Yeah, until text chapter 29. So we'll cover 25, 4 more chapters to continue, so that we'll be kind of understand clearly about who is Puranjana and what Narad Muni wanted to actually say to Prachana Bharisat. Yeah. Hare Krishna. So we'll continue next week, next chapter. Yeah, so tomorrow I got some commitment. I won't be able to continue Nectar devotion tomorrow. Then we'll see you on Thursday for Chaitanya Charitamrita. हरे कृष्ण श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much.